I've been thinking a lot about pronouns recently and what they mean to me. I think it's important before each of these I mention what the topic's going to be, and I think this would be more productive for me in general if I had a topic that I was thinking about. While I'm talking about pronouns, I will be practicing the shape of a major scale. I'm not really focused on memorizing the fretboard right now. I just kind of want to get the muscle memory in my fingers going. I'll start off with C, work my way up in half steps, down, and I think I'll just keep doing that until I'm done talking. I think it'd be like valuable if I just explained my coming out journey in general. And like I don't want to mention like specific stories or anything because I think that each coming out instance is unique to the person I talk to, and that's like a private thing. Overall, I came out as gay in 9th grade. I think in the spring of 9th grade. At the time, like, most people received it well. Like, I didn't necessarily have a bad coming out experience. I think the bad part was, for me, I didn't know any other LGBT people in my life. And I think that led to a lot of internalized homophobia that I had from just growing up, I suppose. You can't really blame internalized homophobia on anyone, you know, because it's just innate in our society. So I had to deal with like a lot of self-loathing in that respect for a really long time. But like, you know, as like time went on, I became more accepting. Even like some of my friends came out, and that was a wonderful experience because that was something we could like share and talk about. I finally fully accepted myself 10th grade. And reason being is I don't want to say figured out because humans are so fluid, it's like kind of impossible to say I know this for sure, but I had a general like idea by 10th grade that I was non-binary and I began identifying in that respect. The term that I like to put on it is gray gender, and you know, it means like a lot of things to a lot of people, but to me it means I don't really have an inclination towards gender / feel a connection to it, and that's just my meaning. And a lot of people reject the LGBT community because there's so many labels, and I think that people get upset when they don't understand something. So like that's why so many people don't want to bother to learn labels or use pronouns because they just don't understand. You know, you can get mad about that, and you know, to some degree, a bit of anger is good because it shows that you care and that you're passionate, but if you let that consume you, then it's like you're not working for the community anymore. You're just letting all the internalized like transphobia and homophobia that exists in society win. So yeah, I came out as non-binary in like 10th grade, and that was a thing that happened in my life, and I'm glad I did it. And I've identified that way for the past 3 years now, I think it's been. And I think the hardest part about being non-binary, like even being gay, is still not completely accepted, unfortunately. So how much more non-binary? It's such a unique concept to a lot of people because we all grew up in a gendered world, and not because gender exists. Like, we made gender to understand human beings, which are inherently beings that don't make sense. So we tried to make gender as another label to understand things. It's like time or gravity. Well, not gravity. Gravity is like real, but time is a label we gave to the passage of, see, like, what even is time? But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is, ever since I came out as non-binary, I have been asking people to use they, them pronouns for me, and I like to research videos about it. And I found that many videos against or that don't understand non-binary identities, they wonder, why does it even matter? Why do I need to call you they, them, or like using your name if you're so like progressive and into the LGBT community? Then why does a label matter? Shouldn't you just be a person? And you know, honestly, on a fundamental level, that makes sense. Labels don't matter. We're just people existing and trying to make sense of like a nonsensical universe. So, yeah, labels don't matter, sure. But an argument that I like to make is that we're not, as a society, close to that point where we can have the luxury of saying labels don't matter. Because, no, if you're making that argument, I would bet like 99% of the time you're probably, to some degree, a bit transphobic. And that's not 100% of the time, but if you're so unwilling to make a simple change in your speech pattern, then I think you're just rejecting the fact that you don't understand this identity. A lot of it comes from a place of anger that these people don't understand what non-binary means, because like, I'm not making a case by any means for like racists, but like, it's how they grew up. And I guess it takes a lot for people to get out of their fundamental mindset. It's easy to get mad at people for not using your pronouns and not understanding your identity. And I think that as members, or if you are a member of the LGBT community, you have to constantly fight for your identity, which, you know, that's tiring. Like, it's really tiring to have to constantly correct people. And, you know, I admit it, sometimes I don't correct people when they misgender me. And that's not because I don't support my fellow non-binary people. It's just sometimes it's inconvenient. And sometimes it's really annoying and tiring. And, you know, sometimes I don't even care myself. Sometimes I don't even think about my gender or my pronouns. But when I do think about it, and I think that it's just a common courtesy most of the time to gender people properly, because I think it's just a simple like word. I don't think people that misgender other people quite realize the impact that one word can have. Sure, you can be like, oh, I'm not going to give this word any meaning, and that's good for you. If you can say to yourself, pronouns like gender don't mean anything, good for you. But I think that since we all grew up in such a gendered society, that it's so inherent in us. I think that a misconception is that if you're a member of the LGBT community, you're not transphobic. But that's not true. I think that everyone is transphobic. I think everyone is racist, and not that like people outwardly try to be so, but it's just instilled in us. Like, sometimes I misgender my non-binary friends, and I feel terrible, obviously, afterwards, because it's a feeling a feeling of dread that I also get, and to know that I instill it upon other people is terrible. But it happens, and for me, when I get misgendered, I try not to let it consume me as much as I used to. It's just more of like a prick on the finger, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if you've ever had like blood drawn, but it's a quick discomfort, and like, it happens in 1 second and you probably forget about it the moment it happens, but it still happens, and it's something you notice. There's such power in one word. Like, this one word can completely validate an identity that you've been ignoring or rejecting your entire life because you're scared, or you don't know like how you'll grow up in a world that doesn't understand it right away. And like, if I'm being honest, I don't know if this is pessimistic, I don't think I'm gonna be alive before they them becomes a normalized thing. And I consider myself an optimistic person, so I guess that's just the realist side of me. Point being, I think pronouns are a simple thing that people can do to recognize people's identities and to help move the world to a place where we don't need the labels anymore. Who cares if you're a he or she, a them, or zer? Like, we're just people. We're trying to live in such a hard world. And not that there's not beauty in the world, but there is a lot of hatred, and I think a lot of it can be alleviated if we all just take simple steps to change it. I think I'm privileged in that a lot of my friends are so friendly to non binary identities. And I think I went to a high school that was, at least the people I hung out with were very accepting, and I go to a college now that's accepting, but I know that there's a slight possibility that when I leave this college, I could go out into the world and encounter people in my everyday life that will reject me for my non-binary identity, and that's a scary thing. And I think that's the part that makes me angry when people say that LGBT identities are a choice. Like, don't get me wrong, I would never give up my non-binary identity. I think it's helped shape me as a human being in terms of empathy and like trying to understand other people. Why would people think that we would choose an identity if it would cause us so much pain in the long run? Like, I don't know, that argument has never made sense to me. I feel like I didn't really do that well in this exercise because I'm kind of like sad and tired right now, but I want to keep doing this so that it becomes a consistent thing. But yeah, so pronouns are on my mind right now, and I don't think anyone's watching this honestly, but if some reason you are, I hope that you use people's pronouns. That's it.